Supercuts!
I'm lonely.
Let's start with a question. Have you ever felt completely alone? Even when people were right there around you? Maybe your friends, your family, your coworkers. They were physically close, but emotionally or spiritually, it felt like there was a wall between you. Take a second and picture that feeling. Let it sink in. Yeshua knows that feeling. In Matthew 26, verse 38, he said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Pause for a moment. Imagine him alone in that garden, sorrow pressing down so heavily that it feels like the weight of the world itself. His friends were there, physically, but they couldn't fully understand his pain. Only his Father could. Only God could give him peace in the midst of that crushing sorrow. Think about that for a second. Yeshua experienced loneliness and sorrow that was so deep, so intense, that he literally sweat blood. Isaiah 53:3 reminds us, "He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain."
Jesus was a man of prayer, and I've just scribbled down here a bunch of verses, and I'm going to kind of read a hodgepodge of verses that you might come to understand the importance of prayer in the life of Jesus Christ, and then come to understand that if prayer was so important to the incarnate Son of the living God, then how much more important should prayer be to us? How much more should we depend upon prayer? Jesus lived a life of prayer. That's the first thing I want you to see. In Luke 5:16, it says that Jesus himself would often slip away to the wilderness and pray. You know, oftentimes when we find something that we greatly enjoy, as opposed to what we grudgingly must do, we try to slip away to it. A man might want to avoid his yard duty by slipping away to watch a ball game. A man may come into work early so he can slip away to go hunting. A wife may want to slip away to go to the mall. They slip away to the things that they most enjoy. Isn't it a crime that Jesus Christ and the labor of the kingdom seems almost to be work that we want to slip away from?
Jesus experienced incredible loneliness. What did he do with it? He didn't run away from it. He entered into it.
He didn't just observe human suffering. He entered into it. He knows what it feels like to be rejected, misunderstood, lonely, and overwhelmed. Take a moment now. Reflect on your own struggles, your own moments of isolation, disappointment, or sorrow. Imagine Yeshua standing there with you, because he's not distant. He's walking or riding with you in that moment. He's sharing the weight of your pain.
And so if you and I are made in the image and likeness of God, that means we're made for others as well. We're made for communion. We're made for relationship. That's the first truth. The second truth is we live in a broken world where we don't know how to give love. We don't know how to receive love. We live in a world surrounded by people who don't know how to offer or aren't even willing to offer love. And so we walk through this world made for relationship, but in a broken world where we're not loved well, we don't know how to love well. And so we experience loneliness.
And you know when you're walking with God, when you slip away to Him, when you say there's so much I have to do, So much grudging work, so much labor. I just wish that I could slip away to Him for a moment, because He's the one to whom I escape. He's the place I rest.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who suffered extreme loneliness in a cold, dark prison, said this: "In our own loneliness, we must remember Christ's own isolation in Gethsemane and recognize that we are not truly alone. We have a Savior who knows our pain and walks with us." Pause again. Let that truth sink in. Even when the world feels indifferent, Yeshua is with you. Not just near you, but with you. So what can we do when the loneliness feels overwhelming?
So we all experience loneliness, but what do we do with that? What we do is we fill it with some other things. I experience loneliness, and so I distract myself. I experience this pain, this sharp stab of loneliness, and so rather than enter into it, rather than let it purify me, rather than let it actually move me out of myself to go give love to someone else, what I do is I distract myself. And so I watch TV, or I watch Netflix. Can I get an amen, anybody? Or I watch, some people turn to alcohol, or they turn to gossip, or they turn to being a busybody, they turn to overwork, they turn to something. Blaise Pascal once said, all of humanity's problems stem from one source: our inability to sit alone by ourselves for 1 hour. Think about that. If you just turned off all sources of stimulation, all sources of distraction, could you just sit in a room by yourself doing nothing for 1 hour and be content? If I can't, then it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you any more than there's something wrong with anyone else. It means that I have got a loneliness problem. Because why? Because I keep trying to find, I'm made for relationship, and I keep trying to find solace in my pain by some kind of...
When prayer becomes a labor, we're not like the Christ. We're not like Jesus. But says He would slip away into the wilderness and pray. Notice He would go into the wilderness. My friend, the world, even the church, is just so filled up with noise. So filled up with noise that every once in a while, especially those of you who are pastors, you have got to slip away. And you've got to go to a wilderness where no one can find you and seek your God.
For me, it helps to take a deep breath, sing a familiar hymn, or pray a simple prayer. Or, I'm lucky enough to say, spend time with 2 pups. Now let's widen the lens. Loneliness isn't just about sorrow. It's about the silent weight of living alone, of feeling disconnected, or of longing for a deeper relationship. Maybe you long for marriage or family. Loneliness can feel like walking through life unseen, unheard, and unimportant. But here's the truth. You are never truly alone. Psalm 23:4 reminds us, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." When loneliness strikes, shift your focus from isolation to God's presence. Stop. Pray.
It says in Luke 6:12-13, it was at this time that He went off to a mountain to pray, and He spent the whole night in prayer to God. And when day came, He called His disciples to Him and chose 12 of them, whom He also named apostles. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had to make a really tough decision? Did you ever pass the entire night in prayer to do so? If you say no, I say to you, behold, we found a man stronger than Jesus.
We live in a world surrounded by other people who are also lonely. But rather than letting that loneliness be the motivation for us to go out of ourselves, to reach out to others, to connect with others, we soothe that loneliness with that diversion or that distraction. Loneliness should be a motivation for us to move out of ourselves. Loneliness should be a motivation for us to say, you know what, I can give of myself rather than I'm looking to receive from someone else.
Let Him remind you of His love. and reach out to others. Vulnerability often invites connection, and sharing burdens can create small taste of the Mashiach's love and presence in your life. Pause for a moment. Consider someone in your life who might walk with you in this season. Someone you could call, text, or even just pray with. Imagine the small, simple ways that God brings His presence through others. Karl Barth, a theologian, put it beautifully. In the loneliness of Gethsemane, Christ bears not only the sins of the world, but also the alienation that separates humanity from God. His loneliness becomes our reconciliation. Yeshua's loneliness was transformative. It was the path to reconciliation. For Him, for us, and for the whole world.
Even Jesus experienced loneliness. I mean, think about this. Even God, made for relationship, God, not made for relationship, God who is relationship, Jesus Christ, there were times when He experienced incredible solitude, incredible isolation, and even incredible loneliness. Where there were times when the people that He trusted the most, and He loved the most and loved Him the most, weren't there for Him in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Matthew 26:36. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to His disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." Sit here while I go over there and pray. Who could forget Gethsemane? Who could forget the war that was fought in that place? My friend, when He got up off His knees, the battle was over. The war was fought there.
Now let's talk about the silent cost of living alone without companionship. The Bible is clear. Solitude has its place. But humans were made for connection. Genesis 2:18 says, "It is not good for the man to be alone." Isolation can weigh on our hearts, deepen sorrow, and make life feel heavier. Psalm 102 paints the picture. I have become like a bird alone on a roof. There's a sorrow, a sense of abandonment and isolation. Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 12, highlights the practical value of companionship. Two are better than one. If either falls, one can help the other up. Companionship matters for emotional support, encouragement, and mutual growth. Proverbs 18 verse 1 warns against self-imposed isolation. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. Singleness adds another layer. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7 verse 8, "It is good for them to remain single, as I am." Singleness is not a curse, it's a gift. He even says, each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. So if you're single and longing for marriage, God hasn't forgotten you. Your season has a purpose.
Ultimately, all of us are called to be lonely well. To be lonely is human. To let that loneliness both purify your heart as well as move your heart to love others.
There are so many mountains in your life, so many obstacles in your life, so many things in your life that seek to derail you, to stop you. And they're going to stay there because some of those things just don't go away by counseling. They go away by falling on your face before God until He delivers you. Jesus was a man of prayer. He showed it in every aspect of His life.
So what makes singleness a gift? Paul calls it undivided devotion. Singles can focus on Yeshua without the interruptions of family life. Quiet mornings of prayer, ministry without distractions, decisions oriented towards the gospel. Singleness brings freedom to serve, flexibility to say yes to opportunities, and the ability to devote yourself fully to God's mission. But remember, being single does not mean being isolated. Hebrews 10 verses 24 through 25 say, "Not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another." Fellow believers can be your spiritual family. Mark 10 verses 29 through 31 reminds us that following Yeshua often brings a family worth far more than anything we leave behind. Through fellow believers, we find companionship, accountability, and love that makes singleness rich instead of lonely. Pause there for a moment. Reflect. Who are your spiritual brothers and sisters? How can you lean into that community? Even small gestures, prayers, a phone call, fellowshipping in those comments here on YouTube, just showing up for someone can bring the love of the Mashiach into your life and others. Singleness comes with joys, challenges, and opportunities. It's a season to grow in undivided devotion to the Mashiach, to serve your fellow believers, and to lean fully on Yeshua's strength. And one day we'll see the ultimate fulfillment. Matthew 23 verse 30 reminds us that in eternity they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. Every faithful moment, every act of love, every season of waiting, it all prepares us for the day we meet our bridegroom face to face.
So today, tonight, this weekend, if you experience loneliness, I invite you, don't run away from it. Allow it to purify you. Allow it to move you.
Verse 1, he says, "Now he was telling them a parable to show that at all times they ought to pray and not lose heart." That's the teaching of Jesus Christ. Right there. If you want to sum up everything he taught about prayer, we ought to pray at all times. Now, for you young men here, let me just teach you something that'll help you. I hear so many young men today saying, "Well, I don't have really a specific time in which I pray. I'm more, throughout my day, I just kind of practice the presence of God. But I don't really have that secret place I go to." Let me tell you something, young man. There is no way you can learn to practice the presence of God if you do not spend much time in secret prayer. The power to practice the presence of God, the power to live a life of prayer, to always be speaking with the Father, that is born out of secret time with the Lord, segments of time with the Lord in prayer.
Yes, loneliness is real, and it hurts. But it's never the end of the story. Yeshua understands it more than anyone. And the Most High is present. Fellow believers should be our family. But singleness and solitude is a gift. Our ultimate contentment lays in Yeshua Hamashiach. Philippians 4 verses 12 and 13 says, "I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me."
This is one of the biggest tasks of life, to learn how to be lonely well.
So wherever you are today, alone, single, longing, hurting, remember this: you are never truly alone. The Most High, God's presence, is constant. His love is unending. Lean into Him. Serve others. Love your fellow believers as family. And trust that this season, whatever it looks like, is a gift designed for your growth, your joy, and His glory. Now take a deep breath, pause, and feel the presence of God with you. Until next time, Shalom, Shalom.